Fall at Equestria, The Crystal's Howling Dance by Megaskullmon. Read by Forrest M. Introduction. The journey starts with a sin. Then, the sin is what you see in the end. On the borders of New Appaloosa and Old Appaloosa, in what would appear to be a no-ponies land, there would appear to be a medium-sized genetics lab complex that spans deep into the equestrian ground. Many cages lay about the underground complex, looking to have been broken for what seems like ages, and bones of creatures that are scattered along the complex floors. Creatures of unknown nature that did not survive the Balefire bombings, as unknown radiation coated the bones. Heavy metal hooves clomp on the metallic ground of the facility as they appear to be heading towards the main laboratories. The creature not having emotions at first glance, but seeming saddened by its walk. The heavy steps walk towards the lab that seems to have many scratches along the walls of what appeared to be a retinal scanner on the side of the door, that was also damaged by these strange scratches. Apparently, whatever was attacking this door seems to have left. The back of the creature opens up with a robotic noise, and its hands retract with several tools, a cutting torch included among them. And, on the other hand, becomes a tube that would attempt to decipher the code on the retinal scanner, its tail letting out an exhaust to prevent overheating. The strange dust appearing to be magical in nature, as its tail retracting back into its neck after deciphering the retinal scanner, but keeps the cutting torch out at the precaution of whatever hostile creature may lurk inside. The door begins to creak open, and inside are many computers that appear to be intact. The pony hears a strange voice as he turns to the direction of the voice. As an old ghoul pony looks up at the pony before him, speaking quietly.
"Are you here to kill me?"
The creature had turned to speak in an emotionless, robotic voice, had spoken. "No, I have not come to kill you. I awoke in my former master's home and soon found myself deactivated, only to wake up in this strange world. You see, I was created through both science and magic, with my former master's brain remaining inside of this robotic metal shell so that he may live on through me." The ghoul pony scientist frowned sadly as he shook his head.
"So,"
the ghoul pony began, sadness in its voice,
"you were created before you were able to learn about the beautiful world of friendship and prosperity our ponies had to offer."
When the android pony nodded quietly, the ghoul pony soon stood up on all four legs with a bit of effort before speaking again.
"So, you came in to learn and understand why so many harsh experiments had transpired down here, correct?"
"Yes." The android pony nodded, tilting his head some, a bit curiously. "What happened?"
"Well, you see, we all have our sins. The 6 mares that were our original saviors were filled with sin. Although they did not show signs of these sins, I personally believe they are the reason why our world became the wasteland most ponies know today. I am certain that others will disagree, but due to my isolation, I've yet to see those that would."
The android pony looked a tad bit confused, as the ghoul pony, having taken notice of this, spoke again.
I see that you're a bit confused. For one being created before this world came into being by radiation, balefire, and war, I imagine that you desire more answers for the questions your new mind must be raising."
The ghoul pony would be sitting down in what looks like to be a surprisingly well-conditioned stool as he stared at the android pony.
"Well then,"
the ghoul pony continued,
"I will be happy to inform you of the 6 mares and their history, but you alone will have to learn the extents of their sins. I'd explain the ministries that these 6 mares have created, but that would be for many other stories to come." Stories for which you alone must learn for yourself. Doubt you'd want to listen to an old ghoul pony rambling on about such nonsense. The one story I'll give you for free is the one about a particular mare that even I find strange. Twilight Sparkle. An odd name, but a name's a name. And what of yours, android? Did your master give you a name?
To which the android pony replied, I am called Silver Gunner. I was originally designed to be a weapon, but instead of following the whole process, I was reintegrated as a learning android. One wouldn't think that, given my armor plating and weapons. My master had an interesting sense of humor. He gestured about his armor some as he continued. He was more of a shoot first, ask questions later type of pony. Nodding some, the ghoul spoke.
Then allow me to explain the story of Twilight Sparkle, from what knowledge I can gather. Twilight Sparkle used to be a bookworm in her time. She was supposedly the element of magic, the one element that brought all the other elements together. Now, I can't fully explain all their stories, but what I can give you, to that I know very well. The rest you'll have to learn on your own.
Silver Gunner took a seat, knowing that this story may take a while, as the ghoul pony continued.
150 years ago, I was given a large sum of money by one of the co-founders of an old company called Stabletech. Never managed to get the name, but most of the employees simply referred to her as Scootaloo. She asked many of us to take on special projects. I never knew many of the other projects except my own. I never wanted to ask the others about what their special projects were, as most of us had to retain a sense of discretion, so to speak. My project was interesting, to say the least. I was personally asked by Scootaloo to attempt to preserve our pony way of life, no matter the cost. And even if there was no other choice involved. This is where the mare I mentioned, Twilight Sparkle, comes into mention. She had a friend with her, a yellow Pegasus that was very shy, for the lack of a better word, that interfered and almost destroyed the project. Her name was Fluttershy. She wanted to put an end to my project, but when I told her what the stakes were, what I was told to do, her heart softened and began to explain that, rather experimenting with a way to preserve our pony way of life, that I should attempt to care for them, nurture them, preserve them.
Then why all the bones and broken cages, as well as the scratches along the walls? Silver Gunner inquired, gazing back at the door briefly before returning to the ghoul pony's gaze as he sighed heavily.
That's my creation, my sin, if you're feeling poetic. I can, however, personally show you these creatures if you wish to learn more. I'm honestly surprised you haven't seen any of the little bastards skulking around. Howbeit, they're far from little, but you get the hint. The project, my sin, was dubbed Iron Wolf. Were it, with anyone else asking of Project Iron Wolf, I'd have told them to get fucked by Celestia's right hoof. Yes, the right hoof. The more painful one.
With a somewhat disturbed look on its expression, Silver Gunner then inquired, I know that I was programmed to be a learning robo-pony than a weapon, but is there a way you can get that image out of my snaps? Any way at all? The ghoul pony chuckled quietly, shaking his head.
Afraid not, Silver Gunner. Have fun with that image in your synapse.
With that out of his system, the ghoul pony continued.
As I was saying, Project Iron Wolf was my way of attempting to preserve our pony way of life. I had not created anything that was intentionally evil or anything that had the slightest disinterest in pony kind. But these creatures that I had created were not exactly pleased with their creation. However, they're strong creatures, very powerful. They're able to survive in radiation longer than most ponies. But that's another story altogether that I won't delve into. They left these labs about 7 months ago, killed and eaten all the creatures inside of the genetics lab. But the leaders who were killed were escaping. They ended up killing each other over a certain crystal. A crystal that aided me in the creation of these creatures.
The ghoul pony paused, leading Silver Gunner towards a nearby console, pressing a button as a holographic image of the crystal the ghoul pony had mentioned.
This crystal had a strange magic around it. It, like all the gems and crystals that were harvested from within the mines, was used in our magical weapons. You may have encountered some of them out in the wasteland. This crystal, shaped like a full moon, seemed to attract these wolves to the mine. The crystals were to be shipped out of our weapon factories, but came to me instead, so I'd be able to use it to further my experimentation. They also gave me several wolves and miners that agreed to take part in the experiment. I'll not explain this part of the story. Showing would explain far better than words can.
He would turn on the monitor as it would show an image of a stallion standing in a room that is blocked off by many windows. The scientist would be seen towards the side, injecting the stallion with a strange substance. The scientist spoke, not in his now ghoulish voice, but in his normal voice. "Mr. Hardhat, let me know if you have any discomfort. If you show signs of discomfort, I'll stop the experiment immediately." Soon after, a strange magical UV light would engulf around the stallion named Hardhat, and his veins would appear to be noticeable and soon began to scream. Then, Hardhat would start to lose his fluids as organs began to spew from his mouth in a pile, gagging, before weakly speaking to the scientist.
"You murderer!"
With that said, he suddenly exploded into a pile of bloodied body parts. Blood painting the walls and windows almost heavily. With that, Silver Gunner turned his head right when the explosion happened on the monitor, soon looking to the ghoulish scientist as he spoke. I take it that the first few experiments didn't go according to plan." The ghoul pony scientist turned off the monitor, nodding as he did so.
"Several of them didn't, as a matter of fact. A few months later, however, I began to make progress. But like all things, it came with a price."
He turned on the monitor, showing Silver Gunner a holographic video of what the crystal does to ponies and wolves that remain around for too long. It would show that the chemistry inside of the brain makes the subject strange.
I was the only pony to be immune by the effects of this damned crystal. And to this day, I still don't know why.
He turned off the monitor, then turns on the next monitor, showing another video on how the crystal works. As the scientist in the video began to inject the essence of the crystal into the pony, keeping in close proximity of the pony to ensure that it works this time. It'd show the stallion transforming. The stallion would begin growing heavy fur, hooves soon turning into paws with razor-sharp claws. Then, he'd actually turn into a wolf himself, as the ghoul pony spoke. The ghoul pony turned the camera some, looking now to the deceased wolf nearby as its essence was somehow drained from the corpse and made into the stallion turned wolf. He'd then take note that the crystal does the same action, but as it started to activate, the camera unexpectedly shuts off.
I had no idea what to think of this creature, but it was able to stand on its hind legs, and its front legs, now turned into paws, had the capability to grab any object that was put in front of him. But the recent transformation caused him to have a mid to long-term memory loss. Poor bastard didn't even know who he was. However, he gave himself a name.
What happened to the crystal? I didn't see it when I came here.
Silver Gunner inquired, gazing around quietly before eyeing the ghoul pony, to which he replied,
The crystal. They named it the Howling Dance. A group of raiders raided the complex after the creatures left. I hid away because I didn't know how to defend myself at the time. And thinking back, I was a fool to have done so.
Thinking for a moment, Silver Gunner then spoke up.
And should I find these creatures, what would you have me do about them?
The ghoul pony looked at him with a soft, sad look.
Let them live. If you happen to find any of their younglings out in the wasteland, see if you can bring them back to the labs here. I hear that they're naturally warrior-like at birth. Might be something useful I can experiment on to help live with the sin I've created. Still, I think I can do a bit of good.
Or tell them the truth of this place, so they may learn forgiveness.
Silver Gunner countered, eyeing the ghoul pony, locking his gaze on him as the ghoul pony nodded some.
Yes, perhaps that would be more of a logical option.
Silver Gunner, having looked back at the door and then back at the ghoul pony, then replied,
I'll do what I can to bring anyone I meet here. But how are you going to survive down here if those creatures ever come back?
The ghoul pony would eye the computer and then a nearby camera.
I'll do whatever it takes to survive down here, Silver Gunner.
He began, turning to said person as he spoke.
You wouldn't believe how hiding in this complex. If anything were to waltz inside, I'd simply be able to hide instantly, out of sight, from all the raiders and all of the creatures that tend to waltz in from the wasteland.
Silver Gunner would then gaze at him with a reply.
I'll be going. Take care.
As Silver Gunner was departing the labs, he had turned on a small, gentle song that seemed to have popped out from his back, as the song continues to echo out. Silver Gunner's field of vision begins to fade out, and soon returns to a group of raiders from a nearby hill, watching him depart from the bunker, with one raider in a wheelchair, in particular, staring out at him. Soon, the vision fades entirely as the music begins to fade out.
War. War never changes, but we do.